Welcome back to Racing Rundown. This is a rather unexpected video that we are making, and it's become a tradition. I guess the last couple of years we have had Kentucky Derby content on my birthday, so what a perfect way to celebrate that with absolute chaos breaking out over the course of the past 24 plus hours. If you have not been paying attention, there have been, count them, 4 scratches from the Kentucky Derby this year. It started off with, we thought that we were pretty good throughout the course of the week, no scratches, and then we wake up Thursday morning and find out that Tim Yakteen had pulled Practical Move from the Kentucky Derby. And then there has been the incidents at the racetrack with a couple of horses from Saffie Joseph's barn dying on the racetrack for still unexplained causes. And as a result of that, there was a lot of speculation for hours across the course of yesterday whether or not Lord Miles was going to run in the Kentucky Derby. Eventually, the decision came down that he was out, and then completely out of the blue, Yoshido Yahagi said that Continuar had not reached the level of fitness that he thought necessary to win the Kentucky Derby, so he comes out. So all 3 also eligibles have drawn in. And then we woke up this morning, Friday morning, to find out that Skinner was also pulled from the Kentucky Derby. There are no more also eligibles, so there will be 19 horses that will run in this year's Kentucky Derby. There was also a lot of speculation as to whether or not Forte was going to run in the Kentucky Derby. He did have a slight stumble in a workout Thursday, but all seems to be well with him, and he is still here. Practical Move, Skinner, and Lord Miles are out. Cyclone Mischief, Mandarin Hero, and King Russell are in. And Eric DaCosta, you picked Practical Move, who was to be ridden by Ramon Vasquez and trained by Tim Yakteen, 10-1 on the morning line. And Mr. DaCosta, how do you think the pace scenario in this year's Kentucky Derby will be different, and who will be your revised top selection?
Thank you, Mr. Howard Cosell. Honestly, and thank you for the kind introduction. And honestly, when we look at the pace scenario, it really has not changed a whole lot. But the addition of Cyclone Mischief does affect things to an extent. I was predicting a half mile close to 47 flat, maybe 47 and 1. I think it ticks forward about a fifth of a second or two with his inclusion. He is more than likely going to be near the lead. I wouldn't say he will be leading, but he should be pressing Jace's Road and Reincarnate, who I initially had up front, and I don't think that will change in the slightest. So I think he will force them to move a little quicker. I don't think it changes my theory that the winner needs to be within 6 lengths. Now, I think it's going to give a better chance to horses like Angel of Empire and Tapit Trice and the new inclusion of Mandarin Hero, too, who kind of has a similar running style. I think that they're going to be coming hard late. I just think that it's going to still be advantageous to be in that second to third flight, riding behind the leaders within 3, 4, 5 lengths of the lead. So if you remember our graphic, Dermis Otagake, Kings Barnes Verifying, Rocket Can, Mage, Disarm, and Confidence Game, and Forte, I'd even say, all still have a good chance, and I still think would be the most logical contenders from a race setup scenario. With that, my new choice in the Derby after the scratch of Practical Move will be Dermis Otagake. He was, of course, his Jack's pick, and also he was, I was down to him and Practical Move anyways when it came to deciding who I wanted to go with in the Derby. I ultimately went with Practical Move. So after thinking it over, seeing what looked different from a pace scenario and things like that, and the new additions, I am going to stick with Dermis Otagake on top. That being said, a few horses did also move up in my mind. With the changes, like I mentioned, Tapit Trice and Angel of Empire both feel like they can get a slightly better toe into the race to make up some ground. So I'm going to give out a cold top 8 in this year's Kentucky Derby because there were 8 horses that I was tossing around more than anybody, and here's how I think they'll end up finishing. I think Dermis Otagake comes home first. I think Angel of Empire rolls in for second. And then I think Verifying is going to run a great race, just not have enough punch late. I think he'll fill out your try, and then in behind them will be Forte, Tapit Trice, Disarm, Mandarin Hero, and Rocket can. So those are the horses I think will definitely run best. And if there was a way I could bet, I don't even know what you'd call it, an octafecta, that's what I would play.
And we will mention when it comes to the post parade, program numbers will not conform to post positions. And number 21, Cyclone Mischief, he will be ridden by Corey Lanerie. And I'm going to stop with the Howard Cosell voice now because Howard Cosell did not get reincarnated to come on Racing Rundown. But there's a couple things that I want to mention. I tossed around jumping off of my pick, Derma Sotogake, but I'm going to stay strong and keep him there because I will hate myself forever if I jumped off of him and he ended up winning the Kentucky Derby. But there's a couple of observations that I want to particularly bring out. Eric mentioned Angel of Empire as a horse that now becomes one that will move up as a result of them potentially going a little bit faster early on. And the one thing that I will say is I didn't particularly like the chances of Angel of Empire that much if you were talk to me on Monday. But now with the addition of Cyclone Mischief, and I'm just going to put it out there, Jace's Road has speed, is trained by Brad Cox, and owned by the Alba family. Cyclone Mischief, not trained by Brad Cox, but he is owned by the Alba family, and he also has speed. So it's not out of the question that one of or both of those horses could potentially go out there and strategically serve as a rabbit for Angel of Empire, and I would think certainly Jace's Road would be the more likely of the two to do that. So Angel of Empire now becomes a must-use for me in the Kentucky Derby. He was a horse that I probably was not going to use because I was going to use one of the more closer to the pace horses. I also, over the course of the week, have really started to get fonder of Disarm. I think Disarm, I don't know what the price is going to be on him, but anywhere between this 20 to 30 to 1 range, I'll be plenty okay with Disarm. I think that, them going just that much, just that touch of a little bit faster is going to make it that much better for him. I already liked him, and we were a little bit hazy as to how the early foot would look like, or how the early foot would look like, and if they would go fast enough. I think they'll go just that touch faster to make Disarm that much more of a player for me in this race. And then obviously this moves up Tapit Trice and Forte. Tapit Trice has basically already been anointed the Belmont winner by pretty much everyone out there, and it's understandable as to why. One horse that I think is a big loser as a result of this is Reincarnate, because Reincarnate is probably going to be is going to run a very similar race to the way Messier did last year early on, and I think that he's not going to go as fast, but I think once again you'll see him starting to come back to the field as a result of that. So I'm not going to make any changes. I think that actually, since Eric threw out a top 8, I'm going to throw out a cold top 3 in here. I'm not going to go as ambitious as him, but I'm going to give out this top 3 of Derma Sotogake, Angel of Empire, with Disarm coming in for third. Again, I think the early turn of foot does help just a little bit. And one thing that I will mention, Howard Cosell said that program numbers will not correspond to post positions. We still don't know whether or not they will run 1 to 19 with an empty post 20, or whether or not they will run 2 to 20 with an empty number 1 post. In the old days, they would have run 2 to 20 with the empty inside post so that the horses were not running into the rail, but we still don't know, and unfortunately, as the time that we are recording this, we do not have the answer to that yet. So, one way or another, Derma Sotogake loses the jinx of post position number 17. He would either break from post 15 or 16 in the event of the changes as to that. So with that being mentioned, I don't know that I have anything further to add. I'll toss it back to you, Eric, if you have anything further that you would like to add, and then outside of that, we will move on, or we will head out of here. I will also mention to check out the Kentucky Derby profiles. Before we end this off, we will add 4 more profiles. I never got to a Raised Cane profile this week. I will get one. And then we also have the 3 profiles that we have to do for the also eligible. So I'll have a couple of those. Eric will have a couple of those. And then also, I did do a WRHU Kentucky Derby preview show on WRHU radio. So I will have that uploaded over the course of the next day or so. So be sure to check that out also. So I'm not sure if you have anything further to add, Eric, but if not, then we will end this off and head into Kentucky Derby weekend.
Nope, just it's going to be a fun race, enjoyable. Obviously, it's been a lot of chaos, but I think no matter what, it's going to be a good running of the Derby, and hopefully a feel-good winner will come out of it regardless.
With that being said, we will see you next time. Enjoy Derby weekend.